Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk About podcast, a series brought to you by Tallaght University Hospital with the support of the Adelaide Health Foundation. In this 6-part series, we're going to cover safer mobility and the various things that can affect our mobility as we age. In this first podcast series, let's talk about safer mobility and falls. Falls are a significant worry for older people. 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 will have a fall each year, and the risk increases with age. Over the course of the 6 episodes, I will speak with a number of colleagues at TUH who are experts in this area. We will talk about how we can improve mobility as we age, and how to reduce falls and injuries from falls, and if someone does fall, what we can do to help them. We hope this Let's Talk About podcast series will help older people, those who care for older people, and healthcare professionals develop a better understanding of falls prevention so people can stay active, keep moving, and enjoy life with confidence. Hello, my name is Paul McElwaine and I am a consultant geriatrician working in Tallaght University Hospital, and welcome to this first episode of Let's Talk About Safer Mobility. I'm delighted to be joined by Gillian Harte, Senior Physiotherapist, and Eimear Digan, Senior Dietitian.
Hello.
Today we will talk about strength and balance and how it affects our mobility. We will discuss how problems with strength and balance can lead to falls, and also discuss the important role with what we eat and drink plays in keeping our muscles healthy. A recent study from Trinity College Dublin reported that 40% of adults in Ireland, aged 55 and older, say they have low levels of physical activity. And I think with the recent COVID restrictions, I'll be really interested to hear today's discussion. So Gillian, starting with you, why are muscles so important in helping us move around safely and to avoid falls?
Well, there are lots of our body parts that are involved in walking and in safe walking. So, for example, our brains have to plan the route, they have to plan around any obstacles that might be there, and they also have to send messages to our muscles. While our nerves tell our brains where our feet are, they allow us to react to what's underfoot. And then our muscles have to be strong enough in order to carry out the task of walking. And they have to be strong in 2 ways. So one is they need enough endurance. So in other words, they have to be able to keep going for long enough and not get tired to hold us up until we get to where we need to be. And then the second is that they need to be able to create enough force and be strong enough to hold us upright, and also to be able to react if anything unexpected happens so that we don't fall.
Okay, so it's clear having strong muscles is extremely important with regards to falls and our mobility. So what kind of exercise would you recommend that we need to do?
So for our muscles, it's really important that we do resistance exercise. It's also known as strength exercise. So we hear a lot of talk around how exercise is really important. We should be exercising 5 days a week. And a lot of that talk is around cardiovascular or aerobic exercise. And that's the type of exercise that is really important for your heart and lungs. And that exercise is vital. But what often gets missed is strength or resistance exercise. And that's the type of exercise that is really important for your muscles. And we should all be aiming to do resistance exercise 2 to 3 times a week, and that's what all of the guidelines on exercise tell us. And there's really strong evidence for exercise in older adults that it improves not just the size of the muscle, but also the amount of force that the muscle can generate, and that also has a knock-on effect in older adults, that it improves their walking and their balance. They also showed that the harder you work when you do this exercise, so in other words, heavier weights, means that there's a bigger improvement. So the more you do, the bigger the payoff. So we have to think then about, well, how do we do this exercise? What should we be doing? So first of all, we need to think about how often. So that's 2 to 3 times a week. Then we need to talk about how hard we should be working. How heavy should the weights be? And you need to work to your what we call 8 to 10 rep max. So that's the weight that you can lift 8 to 10 times before you really need to take a break. And we should be doing that 3 times in a row. So lift it 8 to 10 times, take a break, go again, take a break, go again. And we should be aiming to do this 2 to 3 times a week, as I said, with thinking about the muscle groups that we're using the really big muscle groups. So for example, the muscles, your quads at the front of your thighs. So some exercises that would cover this for us would be, for example, squats. A really nice exercise that I like to use a lot with my patients would be a sit to stand exercise. So for example, standing up out of a chair, then sitting down again, perhaps doing this 8 to 10 times in a row. If that's easy, maybe holding weights while you do it and looking for control the whole time. So you're controlled particularly on descent back down to the chair. So that's just one example of an exercise that can be really useful to keep those muscles strong.
Okay, excellent. So Eimear, perhaps building on what Gillian has spoke about already, what role does nutrition have, what we eat and drink, in maintaining our muscle strength?
Well, Paul, not eating correctly or not eating enough will lead to a loss in muscle volume and in its strength. So eating well and eating right is paramount. It's just so important for keeping muscles strong. Not eating enough also then means you may not have the energy to do the exercises that Gillian has just mentioned. And so these are the exercises you need to be doing to keep your muscles strong. And so then it just becomes a vicious cycle of just muscle weakness and muscle loss. So protecting our muscle, keeping its strength, requires adequate amount of intake of food and energy in the right balance. A general rule of thumb that I would say to patients is aiming to have 3 meals every day and to have 2 to 3 snacks a day as well. And this should provide the energy that's required. Another thing we also hear about, Paul, in relation to muscle is protein. And protein is essential for muscle growth and strength. And getting enough protein is as important as getting enough energy. So when we think about protein, we need to be thinking 3 main things: the quality of it, the quantity of it, and its distribution. So what we mean by the quality of protein is it needs to be a high quality protein like meat, fish, eggs, cheese, milk, to a lesser extent lentils, beans and peas. And it needs to be at a minimum of 2 meals a day, aiming for 3.
So that's 2 meals a day every day?
Every day.
Okay.
And this brings us to the timing or the distribution. That when you think of a typical Irish diet, most of the protein is at 1 meal, the dinner time. That a typical Irish breakfast, tea and toast, there's no high quality protein in that. So it's aiming to get the high quality protein over 2 to 3 meals every day.
Okay.
And this is a challenge.
So can you give some examples, I suppose, of simple and affordable changes people can make to improve their muscle health?
It's quite an easy thing to do once, but it does require some thinking and planning. With regards to protein, we've already mentioned breakfast. So instead of just having tea and toast, have a boiled egg with it, or have a yogurt with it, or have a little piece of cheese with it. Or if you're having porridge made on water, make it on milk instead, or drink the milk that's actually in your cereal as opposed to just taking the cereal out of it. At lunchtime, I hear a lot of my patients would say they like vegetable soup. But in that, there isn't the high quality protein. So maybe having a glass of milk with it, or having a small sandwich with a bit of cheese or chicken on it might be an idea. Also, a lot of the older people like banana sandwich or tomato sandwich. But again, your high quality protein is absent in these. So into your tomato sandwich, you might put a bit of cheese, or again, have a glass of milk with these if it's something that you really enjoy. Also with the main meal, if somebody doesn't have the energy or is feeling not very strong, they may have difficulty cooking their meal. And so might miss out on the meal and decide to just have a cup of tea, bread and butter. You know, particularly if they're living alone, it takes a lot of motivation to cook a meal for oneself. But having ready meals or meals on wheels are just very convenient, easy ways of getting in your energy and your protein source. Also, if you are opting to have the bread and butter, if this is what you want to have, just get a bit of cheese with it, or a little tin of beans, or a tin of sardines, or a scrambled egg, something else that will give that bit of protein into it. So they're just some really, really easy ideas of introducing high quality protein across the 3 meals in the day. Can I just also note, given that Gillian has mentioned about exercise, having protein after exercise is also a good idea. So after the exercises that Gillian has just mentioned, maybe having a glass of milk after it.
Okay, is that something you would introduce, Gillian?
Yeah, and that's something that we would do a fair bit, is we would bring, if we were treating someone maybe who's on a supplement, we'll bring the supplement down to physio. And if they're not on a supplement, we might bring a glass of milk down and encourage them to take protein around the time of exercise, because we know that the protein will provide the building block to allow the exercise to build muscle.
Very good. Okay, so another question for both of you really is, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges for people to keep ourselves strong as we get older, as individuals and I suppose as a society at large?
I think one of the big challenges for a lot of older people particularly is getting to somewhere where you can exercise. So that can be very difficult, and that's particularly been a problem more recently because of COVID and cocooning. So there is lots of facilities out there, but for some people maybe they can't drive, maybe public transport is a challenge, so it can be difficult to get there. But there's lots you can do at home. So I already mentioned the sit to stand exercise, squat exercise, even stepping up and down off the bottom step of the stairs is another really nice exercise. I just think you have to make sure that you use enough weights if you need them. So for example, you can buy weight quite inexpensively, or you can make your own. So you can use a bottle of water, or to make it heavier, you could fill the bottle with sand. If they're difficult to hold, you could put them in a backpack on your back while you're doing the exercise. So trying to get into a habit of getting that exercise done at home if you can't get to somewhere. And then I suppose the other thing is that some people do want to do the exercise, they just don't know where to start with it. So for that, I'd say seek the advice of a chartered physiotherapist, or things like Xwell if you're living in the Tala area, and that's a medically supervised exercise that you can be referred there by your GP or by a physio, where you can kind of learn the tools to get started so that then you can carry on your own in the future.
Great, that's some great advice. And Eimear?
I think one of the challenges is around the intake of vitamin D. Vitamin D is essential for muscle health, and we know that poor intake is linked with falls and reduced muscle strength. In the Irish diet, we should take regular sources of vitamin D, which would be oily fish, eggs, or foods that are fortified with vitamin D, but it still won't be enough. So the Department of Health has said or has suggested to take a vitamin D3 supplement, which contains about 600 international units or 15 micrograms of vitamin D3 every day. So this will really help with our muscle strength.
And how much would that be, like in a normal sort of diet? How would you explain that to someone?
You won't get it in diet alone. That's why they're saying to take it in a supplement or to take it in tablet form.
Okay.
One of the other challenges that I think that may be against people keeping themselves strong is just an acceptance that weight loss and functional loss is a normal part of aging, but it isn't. And that it can be reversed. This muscle loss and muscle weakness can be reversed or slowed down with the right motivation to eat right and to exercise right. But this is tough at any age to do. So in terms of quality of life, though, it really, the rewards will be great.
And I would say that's a good message for us all. Muscle loss begins in your 30s. So invest in your future self and start young and get into a good habit.
Okay, excellent. So I suppose in a way to wrap up, would you have one tip or one particular take-home message to our listeners could take home today?
So I think my biggest tip would be strength exercise. So still harping on about it, but it's so important to improve or maintain walking and balance, and also to make sure you're lifting heavy enough. So remember, 8 to 10 reps, and then you need to take a break. Then you know you're lifting heavy enough.
Okay.
And my one would be to eat right. It sounds easy, but if you're losing weight or if you have a poor appetite, if your mood is low, if you're socially isolated, if you're living alone, you may not be eating right. So flag it to a loved one, flag it to a carer, flag it to your GP. If you're a professional, then maybe undertake a nutritional screen and then refer on to a registered dietitian for a more personalised care plan, where we can do an assessment of the diet to try and just maximise what's being taken in orally.
Okay, well, I got to say thank you so much to both of you for talking with me today. I think 2 really important messages there. So heavy lifting and eating right is a pretty simple but important message. So join us next time for episode 2 of the Let's Talk About podcast, when we will talk about our environment and our senses, our eyes and ears, and how important they are in providing safer mobility. Thanks for listening, and let's talk again soon.